Have you ever felt lost without direction, as if you were wandering aimlessly? Have you ever wondered what your true purpose in life is? Join Akira on this journey that teaches us how to understand who we are and find the right course to lead our existence with awareness and harmony with ourselves and others. If you are enjoying this video and want to support this channel, I invite you to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this beautiful story with your friends. And if you would like to share your thoughts with us, you can leave a comment below and tell us about your experience. And now let's move on to our video. Akira lived in a small village at the foot of the mountains. He was a man of few words, respected for his industriousness and kindness, but inside he carried a burden that no one could see. Every day he wondered what the meaning of his life was. He felt he was living aimlessly, as if he were wandering in the sea without a course. This feeling made him feel bad about himself and others, making every day a torment. One day, tired of this perpetual sense of bewilderment, he decided to visit a wise Zen master, Yakito, who lived in a temple in the mountains. Akira hoped to find comfort and valuable advice from this revered sage. Arriving at the temple, Akira was greeted with kindness and patience. Yakito listened attentively to his torments without interrupting him. After a long silence, the master said to him, "Akira, come with me. I will take you on a journey that will perhaps help you find the answers you seek." As the sun began to rise over the mountain peaks, Akira and Yakito set off from the temple. The morning air was cool and brisk, laden with the promises of a new day. The path meandered through thick pine forests, climbing higher and higher toward the peaks. It was not many hours before the wind began to pick up. At first it was just a light breeze, but as they climbed, it became stronger and stronger, hissing through the trees and lifting clouds of dust from the path. Akira clutched himself in his cloak, trying to resist the force of the wind pushing him back. Yakito, walking steadily ahead of him, seemed almost to dance with the wind, letting his strength guide him without opposing it. After a particularly exposed stretch, he stopped on a rocky ledge from which he could see the valley below. He beckoned Akira to come closer. "Akira," Yakito said, his voice rising just above the sound of the wind. "Feel this invisible force that surrounds us. The wind is powerful, yet we cannot see it. We feel its touch, we see its effect on the leaves, but we cannot grasp it or stop it. It is a force of nature, relentless and unstoppable." Akira nodded, hugging himself in his cloak to protect himself from the cold. "That is true, master. But how can the wind teach me anything about my life?" Yakito smiled, his eyes sparkling with wisdom. "The wind teaches us humility, Akira. It reminds us that there are forces in life that we cannot control. We cannot stop the wind, but we can adapt to it. Look at trees. Those that rigidly resist the wind are broken, while those that bend gracefully survive. So it is with adversity. We cannot avoid all difficulties, but we can learn to live with them and use their strength in our favor." Akira watched as the treetops swayed to the rhythm of the wind, bending but not breaking. He was beginning to understand. "So should we be like trees, flexible, adaptable?" "Exactly," Yakito replied. "In life you will encounter headwinds, failures, losses, disappointments. If you stiffen and resist, you risk breaking. But if you learn to bend, to move with the wind, you will find that you can turn the force of adversity into a source of growth. You can use the wind to gain momentum, to fly higher." The wind continued to lash the slope, but Akira now felt it differently. It was no longer an enemy force, but a silent master who was teaching him a valuable lesson. He closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the wind on his skin, listening to its ancient murmur. In that sound, he found a strange peace. Yakito continued, "The wind also reminds us of the importance of change. Like the seasons, the direction of the wind changes. Nothing remains static. Embrace change, Akira, and you will find your place in the world. Don't try to control everything, but learn to flow with the currents of life." As they resumed their journey, Akira already felt different. Every step was lighter, every breath deeper. The wind, which he previously perceived as an obstacle, was now a traveling companion, a symbol of the strength and flexibility he would have to cultivate within himself. Akira and Yakito continued their ascent toward the snowy mountain peaks. The vegetation became sparser and the terrain rockier. The sun, now high in the sky, shone brightly, but it could not warm the air, which was growing colder and colder. As they climbed, the cold began to be felt more acutely. Akira felt the chills seep into his clothes, into his bones, making every step a small torment. His breath turned into little clouds of steam, and his hands, despite his gloves, began to lose feeling. Yakito, noticing his pupil's discomfort, decided to stop in a small clearing sheltered from the wind. "Akira," he said calmly, "let's sit here for a moment." Akira obeyed, grateful for the break. He sat down on a rock and rubbed his hands in an attempt to warm them. The cold was relentless, biting, and seemed to leave no escape. Yakito, in contrast, seemed almost immune to the frigid temperature, sitting serenely on the frozen ground. "The cold is a powerful force, Akira," Yakito began. "It penetrates deeply, making us vulnerable, testing us. But the cold also has an important lesson to teach. Just like the wind, we cannot control it, but we can learn from it." Akira listened attentively, teeth chattering from the cold. "What can we learn from the cold, master?" Yakito smiled wisely. "The cold forces us to seek warmth, not only externally with fire or clothing, but also within ourselves. When you are exposed to the cold, you discover how precious warmth is. This is how it is in life. Difficulties and suffering, like the cold, compel you to find inner strength, the warmth of your spirit." The master paused, allowing Akira to reflect on his words. Then he continued, "The cold also teaches us resilience. When you face freezing temperatures, you learn to endure, to persevere. This ability to endure, to continue despite difficulties, is one of the greatest strengths you can develop. Life will test you many times, Akira. It will be like an unrelenting cold, but you must find within yourself the strength to endure and go on." Akira closed his eyes for a moment, trying to ignore the cold that enveloped him. He thought about the difficult times in his life, the times when he had felt lost and overwhelmed. Perhaps, he reflected, those experiences were not just suffering, but opportunities to discover his inner strength. Yakito stood up and approached Akira, laying a hand on his shoulder. "Remember, Akira, that every suffering, every difficult moment, is like the cold. It pushes you to find the warmth within, to search for that spark that keeps you alive. Don't run away from the cold, but embrace it as a teacher who teaches you resilience and inner strength." Akira stood up, feeling slightly invigorated by the master's words. The cold was still there, but now he perceived it differently. He was no longer just an enemy, but also a master who was helping him discover a new part of himself. As they resumed their walk, Akira noticed how his body gradually adjusted to the temperature. Each step, though difficult, was a step toward greater awareness and inner strength. Yakito walked beside him, silent but present, a constant reminder of the power of resilience. With this new understanding, Akira felt ready to face the next lessons the journey would bring. The cold was no longer just a trial to endure, but a source of teaching and growth. After facing the wind and cold, Akira and Yakito continued their journey to the mountain peaks. The trail wound in a series of sharp turns and steep climbs, becoming increasingly difficult to navigate. Akira could feel fatigue building up in his legs and his breathing becoming labored. Each bend seemed to reveal a new obstacle, a new challenge to overcome. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows on the rough terrain. Slippery stones and narrow passages made the path treacherous, and Akira found himself wondering if they would ever reach the top. With each turn, it seemed as if the path grew even longer, like an endless maze. Noticing Akira's growing discouragement, Yakito stopped on a promontory from which they could see the entire path they had already taken. "Akira," the master said in a calm voice, "look around you. Look at the path we have traveled so far." Akira turned and looked back. He could see the winding path winding through the rocks and trees, going up and down, losing and finding himself. "It was a difficult path, Master," he admitted. "Each turn seemed to take us just a little further, never reaching our destination." Yakito nodded with a smile of understanding. "The winding paths of the mountain are like the paths of life, Akira. They are never linear, always full of twists and turns, ups and downs. But that is precisely what makes them fascinating and meaningful." Akira looked at the master, trying to understand the meaning of his words. "How can these difficulties be fascinating, Master? They only seem to make the path more arduous." Yakito sat down on a rock and invited Akira to do the same. "Every bend, every detour in the path is an opportunity to discover something new. When the path is linear, predictable, there is no room for adventure, for discovery. It is in the unexpected turns that we find the surprises, the lessons that enrich us." The teacher pointed to a distant spot where the path was lost in the trees. "See that curve over there? When we reached it, we were faced with a breathtaking view of the valley. If the path had been straight, we would never have seen that hidden beauty. That's the way it is in life, Akira. Difficulties and detours show us perspectives we would never have known otherwise." Akira was beginning to understand. He thought about the times in his life when things had not gone as planned, when challenges seemed insurmountable. But it was precisely those experiences that had made him grow, that had taught him the most valuable lessons. Yakito continued, "Don't expect life to always be easy or linear. The winding paths teach you patience, perseverance. They force you to slow down, to observe, to reflect. Every step, no matter how difficult, brings you closer to the goal. And when you look back, you see how far you have come, how many experiences you have accumulated." The master stood up, ready to resume the journey. "Remember, Akira, that the beauty of the journey lies in its difficulties. It is the moments of uncertainty, the unexpected challenges, that make your story unique and meaningful. Embrace every curve in your path, and you will find the strength and wisdom to face whatever life throws your way." With these words in his heart, Akira stood up feeling invigorated. He now saw the winding path not as an obstacle, but as a series of opportunities. Every bend, every climb, was an invitation to discover something new, to grow and evolve. The next morning, Akira and Yakito woke up early, ready to continue their journey. The sky was clear and the air crisp, a perfect start to the day. As they ventured higher into the mountains, the landscape became more and more majestic, with breathtaking views stretching as far as the eye could see. Around noon, however, clouds began to gather on the horizon. The sky, which had been a brilliant blue, began to turn dark gray. The wind increased in intensity, bringing with it a sharp chill and a sense of foreboding. "A storm is approaching," Yakito said, watching the sky carefully. "We need to find shelter." With quick, determined steps, the two men set out in search of a safe place. They found a small cave hidden among the rocks, just in time before the storm hit. Rain began to fall hard, accompanied by lightning and thunder that made the ground shake. Akira huddled in the back of the cave, watching the fury of nature outside. The gusts of wind were so strong that they seemed to want to uproot the trees, and the driving rain created an incessant drumming on the rocks. The storm seemed endless, and Akira felt a growing sense of helplessness. Yakito, sitting beside him, seemed unperturbed. "Akira," he said in a calm voice, "this storm is a metaphor for life. Like wind and cold, storms are also part of our journey. But storms, more than anything else, teach us important lessons." Akira, with his gaze fixed on the fury of the storm, turned toward the teacher. "How can this destruction teach me anything, Master?" Yakito smiled slightly, with that innate calm that characterized him. Storms are moments of great chaos and turmoil, Akira. They show us how small we are and how little we can control. But they also teach us resilience and patience. Look at the storm. We cannot stop it. We cannot avoid it. We just have to wait for it to pass. The teacher paused, letting the sound of rain and wind fill the silence. Then he continued. Storms also show us that after the storm, the sky is clearer. Nature renews itself, and often after the most difficult moments come those of greater beauty and serenity. So it is in life. Difficulties, crises are moments of transformation. Through them we can find new strength, new clarity. Akira listened attentively, trying to internalize the master's words. Master, how can I apply this lesson in my daily life? How can I deal with personal storms? Yakito laid a reassuring hand on Akira's shoulder. When you face your personal storms, Akira, remember that they are temporary. Even in times of greatest turmoil, know that they will pass. Use this time to reflect, to find calm within yourself. Each storm gives you the opportunity to rediscover who you really are, to find the strength hidden within you. The storm outside continued to rage, but Akira was beginning to see the situation with different eyes. It was no longer just a destructive force, but a passing phase, an opportunity for growth. Yakito continued, the storms also unite us. Look at how we are here, together, seeking shelter. Difficulties can bring people closer together, create stronger bonds. Never face storms alone, Akira. Seek the support of others. Share the burden of difficulties, and you will find that your ability to overcome them will be greater. With these words in his heart, Akira felt a new calmness pervade his spirit. The storm outside was still raging, but inside he found a center of serenity. He understood that every difficulty, every moment of crisis was a chance for renewal, for rediscovery, for strengthening. When the storm finally began to subside, and the sound of thunder grew more distant, Yakito stood up and looked out of the cave. The sky was slowly clearing, revealing a rain-washed landscape, fresher and clearer than before. Come, Akira, said Yakito with a reassuring smile. The storm is past. Let us continue our journey. After passing through storms, winding paths, piercing cold and raging winds, Akira and Yakito continued their journey to the top of the mountains. The air became thinner, and each breath was a mixture of fatigue and gratitude for the beauty of the surrounding landscape. The shadows were beginning to lengthen, suggesting the approach of evening. Finally, they reached a peak from which a breathtaking view could be seen. From that height, the world seemed to stretch into infinity, a sea of mountain peaks and valleys bathed in the golden light of late afternoon. Yakito stopped, pointing to a spot where they could sit and admire the sunset. They settled on a large flat rock with a perfect view of the horizon. The sun was beginning its slow descent, tinging the sky with warm, enveloping hues: orange, pink, red, and gold. The view was so breathtakingly beautiful, and Akira felt a deep peace pervade his heart. Yakito remained silent for a while, allowing Akira to savor that magical moment. Then, in a quiet voice, he said, "Sunset is one of nature's great spectacles. Every day, without fail, the sun sets, bringing with it the end of one cycle and the beginning of another." Akira watched the sun set on the horizon, feeling the warmth of the master's words. "Master, what can we learn from this moment? How can the sunset teach me anything about my path?" Yakito smiled, his eyes reflecting the colors of the sky. "The sunset teaches us many lessons, Akira. First of all, it reminds us that everything has a cycle. Every day begins and ends. Every experience has a beginning and an end. We should not fear the end of something because every end brings with it a new beginning. Look at how day turns into night. It seems like a loss, but without the night, we could never see the stars." Akira contemplated the sky changing color, feeling a new understanding emerge within himself. "So, I don't have to fear the end of a chapter in my life. Should I accept it as part of the cycle?" "That's right. Yakito replied. Each chapter that closes leaves room for something new. Accept the end with gratitude and prepare for what comes next. The sunset also teaches us to live in the present, to enjoy the beauty of the moment. When we watch a sunset, we do not think about the past or the future. We are completely immersed in the beauty of the present. This is a precious gift. The sun grew closer and closer to the horizon, and the colors became more intense. Yakito continued, "The sunset also teaches us the importance of reflection. At the end of each day, take time to reflect on what you have experienced, what you have learned. Every experience, good or bad, has something to teach you. Reflection helps you to grow, to improve." As the sun slowly disappeared behind the mountains, the sky filled with a deep, majestic red. Akira felt a deep serenity and a sense of completion. "Master, I feel that I have learned a lot during this journey, but how can I carry these lessons into my daily life?" Yakito laid a hand on Akira's shoulder. "Every day, take a moment to watch the sunset, to remind yourself that life is made up of cycles. Accept each end with gratitude and be open to what is to come. Live in the present, appreciating the beauty of each moment, and reflect on what you have learned. These lessons will guide you, give you strength and wisdom." With these words in his heart, Akira felt filled with a new awareness. He watched the last ray of sunlight disappear behind the horizon, feeling a deep connection with nature and the cycle of life. As the sky darkened and the stars began to shine, Yakito stood up and said, "It is time to return, Akira. You have learned a lot, but the real journey begins now, when you return to your village and apply these lessons to your daily life." After this enlightening journey, Akira returned to his village. He had learned to see life with new eyes. He no longer felt that sense of bewilderment that had plagued him. He now knew that, like the wind, adversity could not be avoided but faced like the cold. Difficulties could reveal his inner strength. The winding paths of life were not obstacles but opportunities for growth. Storms would always lead to calmer skies, and every end would be a new beginning. Akira returned home strong from Master Yakito's lessons, aware of his purpose in life and his place in the world. He now knew that his course was not defined by immediate answers, but by the continual search for and acceptance of beauty in every moment of his journey.